Claims of an engagement sent shockwaves through the social media, but it turns out they were all baseless rumors. There is no ring, no hidden lover. It all started with an internet rumor that quickly became viral. Some rumors, however, have far-reaching consequences, while others die out without causing any harm. In the case of the well-known Minnesota conjoined twins, Abby and Brittany Hensel, one of the rumors was genuine, and the aftermath certainly caused a number of people to gasp in disbelief. Keep an eye out for more updates. The rumor had been circulating silently for years, and their mom now confirmed it. Abby wed Joshua Bowling, a nurse and veteran of the United States Army. The couple decided to keep things small and intimate for the wedding. This all changed in 2024 when Joshua inadvertently led others in via social media. Onlookers were both captivated and perplexed. Brittany and I share a body, after all. How, therefore, can a union as personal as marriage function in such a setting? Abby loves puppies, pink, and sparkles. More subdued, hats galore, and an entirely new vibe, Brittany. They coexist in this world as two separate individuals. No one knew what to ask when they heard one of them was getting married. Now this is when things get unexpected. Not even Brittany was benched or dissatisfied with it. It was said that she was there for the couple from the beginning. She supported Abby and was involved in all the important decisions. This is a love story unlike any other. On the other hand, Abby and Brittany's lives have never been linear. Most people fail to grasp the magnitude of Joshua Bowling's impact on Abby and Brittany's life. He followed in the footsteps of many others who did not approach them with an inquisitive eye, ready to examine their material world. On the contrary, he recognized them for their humanity. True trust and mutual respect were the bedrock of his relationship with Abby, which is unusual in today's world. Not only did he care deeply about Abby, but he also took Brittany into mind. Now, this isn't your typical partnership, which is why many people found themselves asking, how on earth could this kind of marriage work? But for Abby, Brittany, and Joshua, it was always about not conforming to society's norms. They weren't attempting to fit into a predetermined mold of what love is. They found success with the rhythm and dynamism they developed. Naturally, as soon as word of Abby's marriage spread, views flew like wildfire online. Some were amazed, marveling at the power, the affection, and the singularity of it all. Not everyone was so gracious, responding with doubt or inquiring excessively about the twins' private lives, as if the siblings were owing them an explanation. Then there were some who had good intentions but just couldn't understand the logistics. However, Brittany and Abby have been under this type of scrutiny their whole lives. Because of the inherent sanctity of marriage, they decided to draw a line. It was crystal clear. What we choose to share remains ours, and we share it freely. A healthy boundary isn't the only benefit. It must be done. The fact that the two women featured in the documentaries and headlines have minds, feelings, and the right to privacy is something that some viewers fail to grasp. The Hensel twins have been the subject of intense scrutiny and, at times, misunderstanding since their inception. However, they would not be defined by the world's inquisitiveness, according to their parents. Rather, they bestowed upon them an even more potent gift, a childhood that was as ordinary as it could be. Whether it was in their clothing choices, their interests, or their attitude towards school, the parents made an effort to support Abby and Brittany's unique personalities by celebrating and valuing their originality. And the result was substantial. The self-reliance and assurance they gained would serve them well as they navigate a society that isn't always sure how to react to individuals who differ. When they were younger, Abby and Brittany did things that most people wouldn't dream of doing just to get by. On their shared body, each twin exerts control over one limb. Thus, it required true cooperation to accomplish anything physically demanding, such as walking, swimming, or playing sports. The option to just tell someone to do it themselves was not available to them. They had to work together, combining their efforts, to find a solution. They succeeded. They brought the same level of focus and commitment to the classroom, where they excelled. In terms of education, they became inventive. Their ability to collaborate while maintaining their individuality shone through in every aspect of their work, from note-taking to answering questions to completing tasks. Because of the grace, brilliance, and resiliency they brought to whatever they did, others took notice, not out of sympathy, but because of reality. Because Abby and Brittany never desired preferential treatment, it is not surprising that they gained the respect of both classmates and teachers. What they really want was the freedom to live their lives as they saw fit. Plus, they managed to pull it off even when everyone else was confused. Abby and Brittany weren't going to sit around doing nothing after all they had achieved. After receiving their teaching degrees from Bethel University in 2012, they went on to teach 4th and 5th graders. Those youngsters were naturally inquisitive, as is typical for their age, but instead of being overwhelmed, Abby and Brittany embraced the situation. Their classes were enhanced by their exceptional patience, inventiveness, and ability to connect with students in a level that few teachers can match. They were doing twice as much thinking and caring, so it seemed unfair that they shared a paycheck. Their focus was not on financial gain but on having an impact. Therefore, they held out hope that others would see above their surface-level contributions and appreciate what they had to offer. Their colleagues and pupils quickly caught on as well. Resumption of conversation ensued upon hearing of Abby's marriage. A flurry of inquiries and viewpoints, some encouraging and others critical, erupted online. Questions of self-determination and identity were among the many discussed, as was the nature of love in a bisexual relationship. Despite everything going on, the bond between Brittany and Abby remained strong. It wasn't only her sister whom Brittany supported. She remained at my side the entire time. Simply put, there is mutual regard and no animosity or conflict. It was one of those unusual occasions when you could feel the profound depth of their bond. Their strong bond has always been evident, but this highlights their unwavering support for each other's happiness, even in the face of challenging circumstances. Now we can shift our focus to Joshua. Marrying Abby wasn't his way of ignoring the world. A part of their lives he became. Plus, he befriended Brittany, which, to be honest, says a lot. He accepted the dynamic as it was, refrained from trying to alter it, and eventually established his own niche inside their universe. It had nothing to do with conforming to societal norms or expectations. They succeeded because they focused on what was most important to them, finding their own solution. People can still be inquisitive. The truth is, let us not sugarcoat it. Some inquire too far into their private lives, privacy concerns, and even group dynamics. Abby and Brittany, on the other hand, are experts at keeping their secrets and have figured out how to deal with that. They're not the type to reveal every little thing, and to be honest, they really shouldn't. All the work that happens in the background isn't always visible to the public. On the very first day, these two were testing the limits. Growing up, they knew their parents loved and accepted them just as they were, and they had a typical childhood as a result. From their unique styles of dress and interests to their unique approaches to schoolwork, they were always treated with respect. On top of that, did you know that they mastered the left-handed piano technique? And one on the opposite side. Concerning their futures and potential occupations, they began to reflect as they grew older. They fantasized about being pilots and dabbled in interior design and photography. Teaching, though, felt natural in the end. It brought together their passions for education, helping others, and demonstrating that diversity is strength, not weakness. Bethel provided more than simply academics. It equipped students to face the world with self-assurance. The fact that Abby and Brittany are greater than the sum of their circumstances has been evident throughout. They're passionate, intelligent, and determined. Plus, by acting on their enthusiasm for education, they served as a reminder to the audience that physical form may have a significant impact on one's whole life. Still, it isn't allowed to exclude it. They have lived their lives in the shadow of ever-increasing public scrutiny. They have been watched by Abby and Brittany ever since they learned to walk, all the way through their college graduation and into their careers as teachers. And I don't mean that in a cheerleading sense. There has been a combination of wonder, intrigue, and, alas, intrusive curiosity. Speculation in the media over their private lives, particularly concerning Abby's marriage, frequently ventures into awkward terrain. You owe more explanations to the world than that. One TV crew member even said with the audacity to suggest, "I don't owe the world anything," Brittany asserted quickly, effectively shutting down the idea. Neither does Abby nor I owe anybody anything. Can you really hold it against them? One of the most obvious indicators of their strength and maturity is their capacity to establish boundaries and preserve privacy. You can live an honest, daring life, as they've proven time and time again, without succumbing to the temptation of showing off everything. They have maintained that being famous does not entail sharing every aspect of one's soul with the public. It was so more than just news when Abby's marriage was announced. It started all this talk again. A wide range of topics, including individuality, love, autonomy, and free will, were debated. All of a sudden, everyone had a view. How could such a partnership function? Some wondered. How difficult was it? For Brittany, how was it like? Would this even be thought of as typical? On the other hand, there were equally many believers for every doubter. Many took Abby's marriage as a daring declaration that love knows no bounds, even when faced with physical obstacles. If it doesn't conform to societal norms, it can nevertheless survive and even thrive. This became a tangible illustration of how love can overcome obstacles, both real and imagined, and how people may overcome the walls they construct with their own biases and preconceptions. Inevitably, inquiries arise. When they're all three of them, what's their future like? Do you think Brittany will ever meet the love of her life? As time passes, how do you think their lives will change? Although they do not determine the story of Abby and Brittany, those questions certainly have an impact beyond their own lives. Their influence on the students they educate has been substantial. Their classrooms serve as spaces for much more than simply academic instruction. Acceptance, inquiry, and empathy permeate their area. Their pupils gain knowledge in areas beyond the classroom. They are role models for how to accept diversity while still working together. Furthermore, Abby and Brittany offer a fresh perspective to the classroom as a result of the varied experiences they've had in life. When it comes to teamwork, nobody does it better than them. They are adept at overcoming obstacles. Every day, they demonstrate to their students that despite the challenges they face, they can persevere and even grin. Not only are they educating others, but they are also dismantling preconceptions, assisting others in unlearning assumptions, and promoting greater acceptance through their work. They're living proof that when people work together, they can achieve incredible things. Their journey continues to captivate the world. The singularity of their predicament isn't the only thing that draws people in. They are captivated by their resilience, affection, and the sincere and compassionate manner they face life's challenges. They have posed new questions about how we typically think about relationships and identity. Additionally, we have learned a valuable lesson from their example of genuine life. Life can be lovely regardless of how difficult things get. Abby and Brittany provide as a constant reminder as they continue to navigate maturity, that your idea of yourself does not need to conform to that of other people. You need to be authentic in your daily life. Now that we've covered sets of twins that change the game, let's take a look at something even more intriguing. Unusual twins that baffle doctors and demonstrate how unpredictable human development can be. Although most people are familiar with fraternal and identical twins, there is a whole other realm of unusual twin kinds that really amps things up. Regarding these instances, have perplexed medical professionals and scientists due to their unusualness. I'll begin with one that really piques your interest: simultaneous reproduction. Although there is a subtle difference, these twins are technically identical. The other is more likely to be left-handed if one is right-handed. Any birthmark that appears on one side of the body will also appear on the other side. It is possible that even their hairstyles will be different. They seem to be mirror images of one another, which is how they got their name. The egg that has been fertilized waits a bit longer than normal to divide, which occurs between days 7 and 12 following fertilization. You guessed it, conjoined twins can result if the twins don't separate if the split happens later on. Things continue to be really astounding. Here we are with the parasite twins. This one is quite rare and, to be honest, it's saddening. In such a situation, the survival of one twin is dependent on that of the other because the first twin does not reach full maturity. The production of both sexes is not common, unlike in the case of conjoined twins. Parasitic twins can take on the appearance of an additional limb or organ. On occasion, it is completely invisible from the outside. The other twin may be able to conceal it within their own body. This is known as fetus in fetu. That's crazy. The complexity and unpredictability of human development are highlighted by these uncommon twin kinds, and result can be entirely altered by just a few days of gestational delay. Despite the rarity of these occurrences, they deepen our respect for the enigmaticism and wonder of the human race. A little girl in China began experiencing some quite unusual health problems at the age of 1. The doctors ran the standard battery of tests in their quest to diagnose the patient, and then they uncovered a shocking finding. An embryo was discovered developing within her brain. It was out that the unborn child within her was actually her identical twin. It's extremely rare, 1 in 500,000 births, and is known as fetus in situ. You can't help but pause and take notice of it. Tell me how that's even conceivable. Besides that, there are more bizarre twin stories. The occurrence of semi-identical twins is quite rare. They aren't completely similar, but neither are they completely related. They fall somewhere in the middle. Once an egg has been fertilized by 2 sperm, it will divide into 2. Even if it doesn't make sense, it really does occur. This trait indicates that the twins are genetically similar on the mother's side, but only partially so on the father's. In all of recorded history, only 2 such incidents have been identified. 2. Then there is the phenomenon known as polar body twins, which occurs very infrequently. Although this remains mostly unproven, the concept is intriguing. This process occurs when a fertilized egg divides in 2, allowing separate sperm to fertilize each half. In such a scenario, the identical twins would share approximately 75% of their genetic material. Not quite identical, but closer than identical twins. Scientists are still discussing this intriguing what-if scenario, even though there have been no proven cases thus far. Here's one called chimerism that sounds like it was written for a science fiction film. Here, 2 fertilized eggs join together at an early stage to become a single organism. A person's genetic makeup can end up with 2 sets. Just think about that for a moment. You may be born with 2 distinct blood types or 2 different skin tones. That was the case for singer and model Taylor Moole, who learned via medical testing that she possessed a pair of DNA sets. Although it may sound interesting, it can actually lead to serious health problems. At times, the body targets and destroys a specific set of DNA, similar to an outsider. Heteropaternal superfecundation is the most extreme case. In a typical menstrual cycle, a woman may have sexual relations with 2 men at the same time since she lays 2 eggs. A new man fertilizes each egg. Bam! I have twins with 2 different fathers. It's not an illusion. Although it does occur in people, it is not common. Canines and felines have a slightly higher prevalence of this. Nonetheless, when it manifests in humans, a DNA test is typically required to determine the cause. As soon as you think things can't get much stranger, superfetation happens. That's the case when a pregnant lady experiences a spontaneous miscarriage. I know it seems crazy. However, this has occurred in an extremely small number of instances. Once the first egg has been fertilized and implanted, a second egg is released. So not only does the second one become fertilized, but she is now carrying a twin pregnancy. Had separate conceptions. One might have advanced in development by a few weeks. Pregnancy of that kind is extremely dangerous and difficult, but it's also one of those strange things that the human body is capable of. You may be familiar with the concept of identical twins sharing a placenta, but there is an even more extreme kind of twin pregnancy. MOMO stands for monochorionic monoamniotic. Not only do these identical twins share a placenta, but they also float in the same amniotic sac. Sweet in principle, but dangerous in practice. A potentially life-threatening situation arises when their umbilical cords become entangled. Nonetheless, there are exceptions. For example, the Australian brothers Alan and Neville Helmuth, who were identical Momo twins. Collaborating as radiographers and sonographers, they triumphed against all obstacles. What a fantastic idea. The majority of people automatically think of fraternal twins when they see a boy and a girl. And for the most part, that is correct. Nevertheless, on extremely rare occasions, a genetic error might lead identical twins to be of opposite sexes. When one twin loses a Y chromosome, she may become female and the other may remain male. Turner syndrome, in which the female twin lacks an X chromosome in whole or in part, is another result that can result from this. That equal really means the same is utterly thrown for a loop. And here's the kicker. 2 nations welcomed identical twins. It was in 1976 that it occurred. It took 75 minutes for one baby to be born in Wales and another in England. Because of the time and distance between the two hospitals, they were born in distinct birthplaces. That is certainly an experience you will remember for a long time. Pregnancy and childbirth are depicted in these stories as chaotic, intricate, and full of surprises. Is capable of being. While sometimes everything goes according to plan, other times Mother Nature has other plans. These unusual situations highlight the fact that there is still a lot we don't know about human reproduction, whether it's a fetus growing inside a sibling's skull, twins with different dads, or someone discovering they have two sets of DNA. Another degree of inspiration is found in the lives of conjoined twins. Their shared experiences and resilience make them inseparable, and not only because of their physical proximity. As an example, consider Chong and Ing Bunker. Born in 1811 in Thailand, they shared a liver and were linked at the chest. They lived physically linked their whole lives because there was no safe way to separate them in that era. Nevertheless, they persisted in living life to the fullest despite it. They got famous while touring the globe and finally made North Carolina their permanent home. They had a total of 21 children across the two sets of marriages to sisters. Oh, 21. They built lives full of love, family, and purpose, not merely surviving. Being unique doesn't have to limit you, as their experience demonstrates.